Welcome back to our channel. I am Doug.
And I am Sissy.
Yes, and we are continuing our series, Connecting with Our Spouse.
Yes, our spouse connection.
Exactly. You know, last week we discussed the bedroom, the table, and the boardroom,
That's
the BTB.
right. Back to basics.
That's right. And the importance of making those connections in a marriage is vital.
Absolutely. If you didn't catch that video, we want to encourage you to stop.
Exactly.
Listening to that one really quick before you get into this one. Because in that one, at the end of it, we talked about the boardroom.
Yes.
And we talked about the boardroom's going to take time and communication skills and conflict resolution skills. Excuse me. At the end of it, though, we said we can't deal with those three issues until we deal with emotional wellness. Why, you may ask?
Right.
Well, because you could learn, and maybe you already have, you could learn some great communication skills and some great conflict skills. You can learn how to organize your time. But if we haven't dealt with our emotional wellness, it's going to be hard for us to implement those.
Most definitely.
So today, we are answering that question about what's stealing your emotional connection. Don't you want to know that?
Yes.
We learned loving that.
Yep.
No, that's right? No, we loved learning that. Okay, so I'm tongue-tied a little bit, but we did learn that.
That's right.
It was very enlightening. It was a training we did with Dr. Darius Daniels called the 7 Deadly Emotional Snipers. It's kind of got a little mystic to it.
It does.
And let me tell you, it's an amazing training, amazing teaching. We've got our notes here to help us because we want to give it to you exactly as it is. No, we're not going to give you everything today.
No.
Because there's no way we can. In the training, we learned the 7 snipers, their definitions, as well as we learned the symptoms, the stimuli, the sources, and the strategies on how to handle them.
Yes.
Today, we're just going to give you the 7 deadly emotional snipers along with the symptoms, and then give you kind of a way it would play out in a marriage. Because don't be mistaken, these snipers, they play out negatively in our marriages. So let's get started. We hope you're excited. We are excited. First of all, what is an emotional sniper? This is a term that's used to describe hidden feelings, problems, or triggers that can quietly get in the way of our success in life, in marriage, or even in our career. So the first one we want to talk about is the imposter syndrome. Now, you may have heard of the imposter syndrome before. This is feeling like a fraud even when you're doing something good. You're good at something. You doubt yourself, though, and you feel like others are going to find out you're not as capable as you think you are. It's like, I need one more course. I need one more degree. And these snipers, everyone is going to experience them in their life at some time. And it's not just going to be a one and done thing. They're going to keep coming back, but we're going to know how to snipe them before they get us. So I've dealt with the imposter syndrome before. I think you've dealt with it before.
Sure I have.
We've all dealt with it. So what are some of those symptoms? Negative self-talk is one. Undermine your confidence, burnout. So how will that play out in a marriage? Well, let's pretend that Sarah constantly doubts whether she's a good wife, and she is fearful that her husband is going to say she's just not enough. So her insecurity literally makes her over apologize and also avoid deep conversation, which leaves her husband feeling like he cannot truly connect to her. Now, is this ringing true for anyone? That insecurity makes you over apologize and simply avoid deep conversations. It's going to affect your spouse. So imposter syndrome.
Exactly. Another one would be passivity, or being passive in situations. Wow. I mean, I've been there, done that. And so what it looks like is basically avoiding decision-making process, whether it's at work or whether it's with your spouse. You just don't want to make a decision. Okay? You're just going to leave it up to someone else, leave it up to coworker, group, or your wife, husband. You just don't want to make decisions. You don't want to confront anything because you feel like if you do, well, you know what, what I have to say is probably not really good or whatever. You're just passive.
Yeah.
You know, you're internalizing things. And so as a result, a symptom may be you missed opportunities.
True.
Man, whether it's at work, you know, you didn't say something and someone else did and they got the job maybe, or even they got the contract, whatever it was, you go, man, I should have said something because what I had to say was really good. But in that situation,
you were sniped.
I was sniped.
Yep.
I was sniped.
Great.
I was sniped. So let's look at this. Let's look at passivity in a marriage and see how it plays out. Jake avoids making decisions. He's always saying, you know what, honey, whatever you want. Whatever insurance companies at the end of the year. So we need to look at insurance company for our home. So whatever company you want, State Farm, Aetna, whatever, Texas Farm Bureau, whatever you want, it's good.
No.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. And so in essence, this can be leading to resentment. Okay.
Yeah.
Because she's having to make all the decisions.
Yeah.
Or he's having to make all decisions. So passivity is one that's, you know, I can say that I've been sniped by. So.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, a woman starts feeling, or a husband, either way, whichever one is dealing with it, the other party starts feeling overwhelmed and emotionally weighed down, like having to make all the decisions, where the other spouse is thinking, oh, they're just going to let him decide it. It's fine. Sounds real good and fluffy, but it really weighs down the relationship.
Sure it does.
And I know when you started getting relief from passivity, it really made a difference in our relationship. But I also want to admit and be transparent and vulnerable. He also told me no with some things. He actually stood up for some things against me, which is good. And I recognized it and I allowed that to transpire because that was part of the growth. So I want to make sure that we understand that too. So our third one is hypersensitivity. This is overreacting to criticism, feeling deeply hurt, even by small comments, even helpful feedback, like feels hurtful and personal, and it leads you to sadness or anger. We can't take any constructive criticism. We have a hard time owning something because it's so hypersensitive. If we own something, then we're just a failure at everything. So some of the symptoms, obviously, overreacting to feedback. We can avoid challenges because we couldn't possibly, if we fail, we're just too sensitive to fail. We're going to have a low self-esteem with this one. And we're going to limit our risk-taking. So how will this play out in marriage? Well, let's pretend like Lisa takes every comment from her husband as criticism. Whenever he says, the trash is full, she hears it as, you can't do anything right. Well, and she's going to respond to that with anger or withdrawal, which is going to cause increased tension. That's unnecessary. But because she's been sniped by hypersensitivity, this is going to play out in this marriage.
That's right. Another sniper is people pleasing. Who's people pleased before? Yeah, I've people pleased. I've people pleased. You know, you're always trying to make everyone happy. You just always want to, even if it hurts you, you want to make them happy because maybe you don't see them as happy, and so you want to please them and whatever. And that's you know, that's actually can be a good thing to serve, but there's limitations to this.
You don't want people upset with you.
You don't want people upset with you at all. Okay, so some of the symptoms that you can internalize and see for yourself is really you have difficulty setting boundaries. And quite frankly, when you set a boundary for yourself, you're helping that other person because that other person knows exactly what your boundary is, knows exactly what they can say to you, when they can say it to you, and vice versa. And so it's really, boundaries are really healthy in this situation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, setting a boundary is protecting the relationship.
Protecting. Yeah, so. Exactly right. Example in a marriage for people pleasing would be Mark says to every request from work to church to friends, he's always saying yes. Okay, excuse me. He's always saying he struggles.
He's saying
yes to everything. Okay,
work,
church, whatever it is. Okay, and so he's basically he's overcommitted. Okay, and he has a fear of disapproval, so to speak. And there's nothing left when he comes home for his wife, okay? Because he just struggles saying no to everyone at work, comes home, and he's tired. His wife wants to communicate with him, and you have nothing left.
Yeah.
So
another one is passive aggressiveness.
Yeah.
And we didn't say what's the big deal about sniping. Well, the big deal about sniping is you don't see them.
Right.
If a sniper's good, he is hidden, right? The sharpshooters, they're sniping. They're not standing there pointing the gun at you. It's coming from afar, so you're not seeing it. And that's why we're diving. In 2025, we said we were going to take a deeper dive. This is deeper. This isn't surface level.
That's right.
Because if we don't get rid of those roots, we're going to keep producing the same fruit. And what is fruit? It is behavior. It is actions. So let's look at passive aggressiveness. This one, you've heard of people say, oh, they're just passive aggressive behavior. Well, that's hiding your frustrations instead of talking about it. Let me say it again. Hiding your frustrations instead of talking about it. You might use sarcasm. Sarcasm is running rampant in society today, even in cartoons. So you might use sarcasm or give someone the silent treatment or do things subtly to show your anger. So some of these symptoms, you undermine trust, you have poor communication, and you have unfulfilled relationships. Now, when Emma is upset, she doesn't express it directly. Sound like anything you've ever experienced. Instead, she makes sarcastic remarks or, quote, forgets to do what her husband asked her to do. See, that unspoken frustration is building up walls instead of solving problems. We like to call it sometimes false humility in a relationship. We just are passive aggressive with each other. We, act like everything's fine when really it's not fine because we haven't learned how to be able to express our needs, our concerns in constructive ways. We haven't learned those skills and tools yet. So we just keep burying it. And then all of a sudden, an eruption happens. And the other spouse is left speechless, like, whoa, what just transpired? I thought everything's been going along good.
That's right.
And what's really scary about this one is that sarcasm. Because sarcasm is so accepted today as a good way of a relationship because it's everywhere. I read something somewhere not too terribly long ago that said sarcasm is just a funny way to express your anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Think about that one.
That's true. A sick sniper is overcommitment. Nowadays it's like, okay, I can handle everything. If someone asks me to do something, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, yes, I can. That's it. In society, overcommitment means, wow, you're busy.
Yeah.
And when you're busy, you become more valuable in life, in society, at work, whatever. That's the false narrative. Because big time inside, you're saying yes to everything. You run very thin. Okay. Internally, you're burned out. Okay. You may not say that to your boss, obviously, or even to your spouse. You may not feel burned out. You might tell her, look, I'm burned out with life, whatever it is. But bottom line is you're burned out. And so as a result is you neglecting priorities because you've overcommitted yourself in so many different tasks that you have. So you neglected priorities, you got strained relationships, whether it be with a husband, wife, and then that can lead to anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Can lead also to missed opportunities. So because you've overcommitted yourself. So let's look at an example in a marriage of being overcommitment. Well, Chris and Rachel's calendar is just packed, okay, because they've overcommitted together. Maybe not just Chris, both of them together. They're volunteering, they got kids' activities, their work events, but they never have time for themselves. Their marriage is running on autopilot. And maybe they're just passing by in the kitchen, family room, whatever, but they're not really talking. They're not having that quality time that the Lord wants us to have in a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're overcommitted. They're burned out.
Absolutely. I think about that couple reminds me of treading water.
Yeah.
We're just treading to keep our head above water.
Yeah.
And we're sinking. We're not thriving. We're surviving. We haven't gone all the way under to sink. We're surviving as long as we keep treading. This overcommitment is really, really hard on a marriage.
Sure it is.
Because if there's one person doing it, I promise you, they come home and give the short end of the stick to the spouse. I used to suffer with overcommitment. And then I read a book by Lisa Turkris called The Best Yes. And one thing that stuck with me out of that book is anytime you're getting ready to say yes to something, before you say yes, look at your life, look at your schedule, and say, where am I going to take the time from?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to get extra hours to add with the extra responsibility. You're going to have to figure out, am I going to take it from my time with my spouse? Am I going to take it from my time with my kids? Am I going to take it from my gym time, from my prayer time? You're going to have to figure out, even if it's 30 minutes a week or 30 minutes a day, whatever it is, where's it coming from?
That's right.
And then, is that the best yes for you? So that overcommitment really wreaks havoc on relationships. The last one is hyper independence. Now, that's believing you got to do everything yourself and you refuse help. Get that? You refuse help. You don't ask for support even when you need it, which can lead to stress and loneliness.
Right. Yep.
Everyone ever experienced hyper independence? A lot of times, oldest children have hyper independence. Why? Because they were responsible for the younger children. A lot of people have hyper independence that grew up in families where parents were not emotionally available. And they had to take that role of being independent and taking care of themselves and doing things for themselves, because if they didn't, it didn't get done. Fast forward into life, the symptoms, you may have limited skill development because you're just doing everything you have to do. You don't have time in hyper independence to go develop new skills. We got to keep going here, and we're not going to ask for help. You have ineffective problem solving, and of course you got increased stress and anxiety because you're doing everything on your own.
That's right.
This is another real killer for marriages. Mia grew up handling everything alone, and now she's married, and when she's overwhelmed, she refuses to ask her husband for help. She takes it as she's not getting support. He takes it as she doesn't want anything from him, and it makes him feel useless. So both of them are feeling feelings that are lies. She just doesn't know how to ask for the support. She's always had to do it on her own.
Right.
And so for her to ask at this point is failure. She doesn't know. She has to learn. She's been sniped. And then through the rest of the training we have, you get the sources and the strategies and so forth. The bottom line is they're both struggling separately instead of being together. Right. He's feeling useless because I'll just do it. I can do it. Forget it. I'll do it. That is called hyper independence. Now, make no mistake, these snipers silently erode our connection as husband and wife.
Right.
The first step, though, is to learn that we are being sniped. And again, no condemnation, because everyone is going to go through being sniped at some point or another in our life.
Right.
And it's not like we get it one and done and it's over with. We're going to have to deal with it at another time. It can rise up at another time.
Yep.
First thing we want to do is make sure we know we're being sniped.
Right.
That's why we're doing this teaching today before we give you communication, conflict skills, because we need you to have the capacity to grab those and to use them for the enhancement of your marriage.
That's right.
If we don't have the capacity because we're being sniped and we don't even know we're being sniped, a few videos back, I remember you saying something about you cannot heal what's concealed. We got to reveal this so it can start to be healed.
Yep, exactly. So let's recap the 7 snipers. Okay.
Yeah.
First one's imposter syndrome.
Right.
Second one's passivity. Third one is hypersensitivity. And then we have people pleasing. Number 4. Number 5, passive aggressive. Number 6, overcommitment. And then number 7, hyper independence. So we encourage you all to kind of look at these 7 snipers and see where maybe you had situations where you got sniped, maybe by one or more than one.
Yeah.
And talk to your wife about it and see how you can help each other out in that situation.
So as an activity, we want to encourage you, literally sit down independently, pray, ask God to help you to see what sniper might be getting you right now. And don't be surprised if it's all 7, because that's not uncommon. figure out what one and how you think it's shown up in your marriage. Look for an example of where you can actually see where it showed up in your marriage. And once you've done that independently, come together as a couple, share what you found out, and listen to the input from your spouse to see what they have to add to or what they can share about themselves and what they've discovered. That's the start to moving forward to healing. If you have more interest in this, just message us. Right. Next week, we are going to be answering that wonderful question of the 4 types of communication.
That's right.
Well, which one are you? So that's all the teaching right now. It's a lot. You may need to watch this again, maybe more than once. If you know someone this would benefit, share it with them. This is the deeper dive. We're not surface level. We're going deep.
That's right.
Because we want to thrive in 25, but we can't thrive in 25 unless we take a deeper dive. And this is one of those deeper dives.
That's right. That's right. Remember, you say, I do.
And we help you
stay I do.